And welcome to the Daily Space Weather. Smasho here. Wondering whether or not this sunspot group here, Sunspot 3141 and Company, will create an X-flare. We'll be covering things like coronal mass ejections, the most detailed space imagery you'll find anywhere in the known universe here at the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. That's a bit of a close-up there. Northwestern limb. 171 plus 335 angstroms. We've brought some longer duration SDO browse data videos here. This is from the 12th through today, the 15th. They show a little bit of increase in this more northern sunspot group. And here's your colorized magnetogram from that same period. By the way, please support the channel with clicks. Visit our homepage at smashomash.com. You can find our links there to social media, the Red Bubble Shop, which we'll cover here momentarily. Yes, the Red Bubble Shop, it's fantastic. You'll also find a link to SureMed. Improve your health with a membership in the American Better Health Organization. All of those features there are included at no additional cost. SureMed, improve your health. And if you'd like to support the channel via subscription services, become a member of the Smash Team at smashomash.com/Smash Team. Thanks to everybody who has helped us produce the content the past 5+ years. We are also on Patreon, PayPal, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and obviously, well, YouTube. If you're watching on BitChute, make sure you go subscribe over on YouTube. You're missing a bunch of the content. The playlists on YouTube will not show up on BitChute. You'll also find links to our latest affiliate. Yes, our latest affiliate / you could say sponsor, Hemp Lucid. Yes, Hemp Lucid. Thanks for sending us the great products. We'll be doing more reviews soon on some new stuff that we just got yesterday. Those are the most popular. Visit our links. Do some Black Friday shopping. Try the Delta 8s if you are brave. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. If you enjoy the content, why not follow us on social media? Do you have a Twitter account? No? Well, Elon has not fixed Twitter, but in any case, look at that. We're almost at 340 followers, folks. Wowzers. Oh, my God. Nearly 340 followers. Thanks for subscribing on YouTube, by the way, and for tolerating the pathetic censorship on the platform the past 5+ years. While we're bringing the most detailed space weather and imagery of the sun you'll find anywhere in the known universe. Links below the video, also the Red Bubble Shop. It'll put you there in order of best selling. Today's featured product is a re-release. And let us know in the comments what you think of masking. Yes, of course, I have certain opinions that I will not even divulge in this video. Today's featured product is Smasher Price My First Pandemic. Yes, it's a re-release, so one of the first pieces of merch that we ever released was this gem to celebrate and commemorate survival of a global pandemic. By the way, congratulations on surviving a global pandemic. So far, mask up, bro. My mask protects you, and your mask protects me, bro. So check out the products available in various different types of media. Makes great gifts. Congratulate your friends and foes on surviving a global pandemic so far with Smasher Price, My First Pandemic. And yes, I'm not only Smashomash, but I'm also a client. Let's see what's going on in terms of volcanoes. And good morning to you too, Tin Man 1057. So here's what's erupting at the moment. Suwanosejima is producing a flight level 070. It's a 7,000-foot volcanic ash plume. Ibu exploding, 9,000-foot ash plume from Ibu. Dacono exploding, 8,000-foot ash plume from Dacono. Popocatépetl exploding, flight level 210. Flight level 160 from Fuego. As it explodes in Guatemala, 16,000-foot ash plume over the Central American nation. Sangay in Ecuador exploding, flight level 210, and unable to detect Sabancaya. Don't assume it's not erupting, and decide to pole vault the caldera. Don't pole vault the caldera. Next, looking at seismicity, and things have calmed down since the past week. Pretty chill here. No major quakes over the past 24. The largest one is near the Pacific Antarctic Ridge down there near the Southern Ocean. It was a 5.5 magnitude at 15:01 yesterday on November 14th. So we're just going to let the good times scroll here. It was also a 5.0 in the Band-Aid Sea. And a 3.3 in Oklahoma. Drop us a line if you felt that quake. Getting back to space. Here's the last 24 hours from SDO in the house favorite wavelength. It's 171 angstroms ionized iron. That is Iron Star. The radio flux has actually come up a bit. So we're now seeing the radio flux at 142 solar flux units. And for you new viewers, the 10.7 centimeter radio flux comes from the upper chromosphere in the lower corona. This area right about here, right about there, is where the 10.7 centimeter radio flux comes from, and it is proportional to sunspot number. That is the 1-year graph from solon.info. Space Weather Enthusiast Dashboard not forecasting any space weather storms. That is NOAA's forecast. No space weather storms or geomagnetic unrest are currently in the forecast. So let's move to Earth's magnetic moment from space. It's our Geospace Magnetosphere movie showing magnetohydrodynamic pressure. It's the last 4 hours if all is working according to plan. And things are looking quite geomagnetically calm at the moment. Speaking of moments, here's Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. Magnetic flux density is what a nanotesla is. That is the unit displayed. Again, quite calm. The last 4 hours of geospace delta B changes to Earth's B field. KP index is barely at, it's almost at 0, folks. KP index 0.3. Not as low as it was about 9 hours ago. It was down to 0. Now it's at 0.3 is the KP index, the planetary K index, a measurement of global geomagnetism. Next, real-time solar wind. Solar wind speed here down to 410 kilometers per second. Solar wind density only 3.7 protons per cubic centimeter. Tin Man says he did not feel the Oklahoma quake. Next, the GOES magnetometers for the past 3 days. There you have their measurements in nanotesla. A little bit of maneuvering there for the GOES 17 right around midnight universal time. And looking at more magnetic data here, here is the polarity of the heliospheric current sheet. And Earth's in a south pole oriented current sheet here at the moment. Let's take a look at the line of sight field plot. There's the solar B field in blue, south solar polar field in red, north solar polar field in green. And let's move to coronal holes. We've got a very well-defined coronal hole here moving in the southeast. Let's take a look at that from SDO. Great example there of a coronal hole. You're seeing an area where there is a very low amount of one specific species of iron. That's why it appears dark. There's a low amount of that iron ion in that location. And this is the time when we'll move to sunspots. Flare probability, as you can see here, very, very high, with sunspot 3140 and 3141 setting. There are times there when they're showing over a 60% probability of an X-class flare. Let us know in the comments what you think. If we'll see one or even more X-class flares. Will we see any X-class flares, folks? Let us know in the comments. 3141 seems to be the main flare producer. And let's move on to show some imagery before we get to energetic particles and solar flares. So there is the last 24 hours in SDO continuum. Here's a close-up of the northern hemisphere where the action's happening. And we'll show an extreme close-up of the sunspot 3140/3141 complex. A little bit of umbral consolidation happening there with sunspot 3140. And moving on to our energetic particles section, here's the proton flux flatlined for weeks. X-ray flux has risen as we forecasted here. We see it now at a C-class background level. One M-class flare here over the past 24. It occurred at around 2:50 Universal Time this morning. We've got multiple views here from 131 and 94 angstroms. There's the 24-hour imagery. Here's the northern hemisphere in that same time span. And here's a sweet close-up. See, there is indeed an M-class flare in there. And here's the same view from 94 angstroms. We'll zoom back out. And full disk 94 angstroms. Next, moving on to a star chart. You might be seeing Mars if you're up before dawn. Also the moon high in the sky. That's the sky over Lehigh Valley from in-the-sky.org. Pick all sky charts if you want to make your own star chart for your location. Solar system forecast to follow. Here's where things are now. There's where things will be in a week. We'll be approaching another new moon as we have a crescent waning. Mercury and Venus making their way around to the populated side of the solar system. Next, some coronagraphs. Here's yesterday. 92 frames of yesterday from George Mason University. And here are 27 frames from today. And are those CMEs earthly directed? That's probably your next question. And the answer is, I don't think so. So let's check out the view here from Stereo A. It'll give us a little more insight, as well as the Soho Lasco C3. Stereo A here on the left. which for you new viewers places Earth off in this line. From the Soho-Lascaux C3, Earth would be behind you. And I want to note right here, it looks like there could be an earthly directed CME, but it is off to the west. You see this hook-like wisp here, this hockey stick shaped bit of plasma? If you look at this on the Soho-Lascaux C3, you'll actually see the signature of it right there, and it is entirely off to the west. So in my opinion, that's the only bit that had any sort of likelihood of being earthly directed, and it is indeed off to the west. So I don't think any of that ejecta is Earth-directed coronal mass ejection material. We'll have to see what happens on the interwebs today. So anyway, here's the last 24 hours. 3 large prominences visible there. There is an active region rising in the southeast. It's super obvious when you look at the coronagraph. Right down here. Actually, a couple of active regions appearing to rise in the southeastern limb. And here's a little greater zoom out. Again, I don't think any of those CMEs are earthly directed, and let's look at filaments. So filaments, there are still a lot of very huge filaments here on the Earth-facing portion of the solar disk. Lots of dark absorption features in both the northern and southern hemispheres. Also likelihood of X-class flares, very, very high. Perhaps even higher than 50%. Again, let us know in the comments if you think we'll see an X-class flare in the coming 3 days. So here is our ionized helium wavelength for the past 24 hours, 304 angstroms from SDO. The very high-resolution imagery from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. And let's get some lower resolution at a shorter time frame. There is the past about 2.5 hours from the GOES 16 SUVI. And let's move to bonus features. Satellite charging hazards are non-existent. Smooth sailing for the satellites. Electron flux here just at moderate levels. That's the GOES electron flux for the past 3 days. There is the forecast model, nothing to write home about there, just uneventful there as far as the relativistic electrons. There's the 1-year chart to put the electron flux in context. Next, we'll look at the ionosphere. Feel free to pause the video if you're not familiar with electromagnetic radiation, the molecular concentration, and the temperature of fluctuation. Here's the F ionosphere's vibrational frequency. Here's the F ionosphere's anomalygram. There's some low-frequency anomalies over places like the Mediterranean, the Central Atlantic, North America. That is the anomaly in megahertz from the 30-day median. And here's the latest image. That's 11:30 Universal Time. Ionogram, 11:30 Universal Time. Anomalygram. Next, checking out the total electron content forecast. It's the free electrons between your GPS satellite and your GPS handset. Total electron content over the North American continent looking like this. And here is the standard deviation. And here's the anomaly from the 10-day average. And we'll let that play through a second time here. We'll also show the current global total electron content. Headed back to the Australian Bureau of Meteorology. Here is the TEC global map. And moving on to our latest intensity gram as we close out our space weather section. How about them, hombre? Yowzers. Likelihood of X-class solar flares. Hovering around 50%, I would say. Again, let us know in the comments what you think. Do we have any new sunspots over here yet? Not yet. And how about one last series of images from SDO? This is 193 angstroms from yesterday plus today. Looks like some missing frames there from the browse data. And let's move on to our meteorology segment. And thanks for leaving a comment, Mike Bordages. So right here we're looking at surface temperatures, and it's looking a little chilly over North America. Let us know in the comments if it's so hot that it's cold where you're located. Of course, most of our viewers are located in the United States. Give us a shout out from wherever you're located. And let's move to our wind maps. So there you go. There is the surface wind scenario for the eastern world. Here are the jet streams. Jet streams of the western world. Looking like that. Some huge bends here in the northern Pacific Ocean. Also a big wave in the North Atlantic here. Here is the surface wind scenario. Surface wind scenario for the central world and the jet streams of the central world. The 250 hectopascal winds are looking like that. Moving on to see the sunrise over the Atlantic and South America and so on. Great imagery there from the NASA GOES Interactive Visible Satellite. And let's move on to our weather.gov map. So a bunch of winter weather advisories there. If your county's lit, click your county. Some special marine warnings there, south of Mississippi and Alabama. And south of Nolens. Anyway, there's the key. Again, if your county's lit, click your county. A bunch of winter weather advisories there for the northeast and central U.S. Also Montana. Here's the 72-hour GFS pressure and precipitation forecast, and it is snowing. It is snowing, and it's going to be snowing. Second system moving in here, moving due south from Canada, over Montana and so on, Wyoming and Colorado. 72-hour GFS pressure and precipitation. Here's a 72-hour GFS accumulated positive snow depth change in inches. And most of Pennsylvania is going to be blanketed. More than an inch there forecasted for most of the state, and as much as 6+ inches there for south central Pennsylvania. Some places like Maine expecting more like a foot. Once again, 72-hour GFS accumulated positive snow depth change in inches. Yowzers. Let's see what's happening at the current moment. There's your precipitation type. Some wet snow falling in Illinois and northern Missouri, also southern Iowa. Chicago, seeing some wet snow. That's windy.com, by the way. They've got a great mobile app if you haven't checked it out. Maybe do so. We've got some lightning in the Gulf here at the moment. We saw some very strong thunderstorms right there around New Orleans. Let's see if we have any current strikes. Here's the current state of affairs. A fairly concentrated thunderstorm there south of Mobile. And let's zoom out. There is what's going on from the world perspective. Pretty calm as far as thunder and lightning at the moment. Here's your U.S. Doppler radar map. There are all 50 states of ALSA, the allegedly United States of America. And here are the lower 48. How about the shortwave radiation map showing clouds and fog? Over half the country still dark. But water vapor emits radiation. That's the 3.9 nanometer infrared radiation band. And here is the water vapor map. I think it needs a refresh. There's the water vapor map. As some dry massive air here is giving a little push from west to east. That's centered over Arkansas. Likely clear skies over most of Arkansas here at the moment. Maybe some low clouds and fog. Anyway, here's your recap. It's the U.S. Doppler radar showing vertical motion of water droplets. Here is your clouds and fog. And here is your water vapor map. That should clear things up. Once again, thanks for tuning into the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-O-Mash, signing off. And may that solar wind be at your back.